Now I could write something that's ignorant, presented as immaculate, then package it for people to purchase, digging inside your purses and pockets for profit that I know that you need it. Don't pay your mortgage or no car, don't give them dollars to me. I dominantly attest the system that was set in place with politics. The problem is this shit is archaic, so I'll explain it quick. Of course you need a singular image, then you're excelling. Don't worry about your content, cause hatred is always relevant and prevalent. I'm sure you'll find the proper way to sell the kids and catch them.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to Sports Darius 8. I am Darius, and thank you for joining here at Sports Darius 8. And if you haven't already, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, below, and also make sure that the above post some games video and up to my channel. As you know, many of our fans know that I am a diehard Dallas Mavericks fan, and we know the disappointing end to the Dallas Mavericks season this year. Even though they were first in the Southwest Division, even though they were the 5th seed in the Western Conference, they went down in 7 games to Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Los Angeles Clippers in the first round of the NBA playoffs. And there are a lot of questions, especially with the recent firings and layoffs of Dallas Mavericks general manager Lenny Nelson and longtime Dallas Mavericks coach Rick Carlisle. So the general manager and head coach position are wide open for the Dallas Mavericks. But today, I am going to focus on Kristaps Porzingis, this roster, free agency, the draft, and the future of this Dallas Mavericks team outside of front office and the coaching position. Now, look at the playoffs this season. Luka Doncic had a phenomenal run. The Dallas Mavericks, my team, we had a lot of guys step up throughout that series. Tim Hardaway Jr. was lights out, and majority of those games this season. Jalen Brunson was terrific throughout the course of the series. Dorian Finney-Smith played the best possible defense he could on a great player in Kawhi Leonard, one of the best players, not the best player in the game of basketball. Excuse me there. But the main question for the Dallas Mavericks is, it's not coaching, it's not the general manager right now, is if Kristaps Porzingis is a legitimate second option for this team. And Kristaps Porzingis, in my opinion, has to realize that, hey, Luka Doncic is going to get his shine. And Luka Doncic is going to improve. And Luka Doncic is not even at the peak. He's not even at the peak of his play yet. And looking at the trajectory of Luka Doncic right now, only at 22 years old, the real thing is, he's going to get even better. And Kristaps Porzingis has to realize that in the playoffs this year. Yes, he had 16 points throughout the course of this series. Yes, he was crashing the Warriors. I believe averaged like 9.1 rebounds throughout the course of this series. But looking at these past 5 games against the series and the Clippers, 16 points, 7 points, 8 points, 18 points, 9 points. That's not enough for a legitimate second option. Where, hey, Luka Doncic is averaging pretty much 30 plus points throughout the course of this whole series, breaking records. In the name of the likes of Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain and the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars of the history of the NBA. Kristaps Porzingis has to step up, and it just can't be in the regular season where he averaged 20 points. It also has to be in the postseason. And I understand Kristaps Porzingis has been dealing with injuries, not just this season, but throughout the course of his career. But you have to step up when it matters most. Now, looking at the draft, I'm really not worried about that because, via the Kristaps Porzingis trade, the Dallas Mavericks now do not have a first-round pick. This year, the Knicks have our first-round pick, unfortunately. But I think the main focus here has to be free agency. And, of course, yes, Luka Doncic, we're without a shadow of a doubt, we're going to give him that Supermax contract extension. I think one of our main priorities is actually resigning Tim Hardaway Jr. in free agency. We all know how big of an impact he had this season and in the postseason. Lights out, even though he had some ups and downs during the season. Those last 2 months of the regular season and in the postseason, he was phenomenal. He was literally, in my mind, outside of Luka Doncic, our best player. He is a phenomenal three-point shooter. He's a phenomenal mid-range shooter. We can rely on him to give us points whenever it matters most. And I think that has to be one of the main questions here. Tim Hardaway Jr. definitely has to be our top priority going into the offseason. Now, realistically, I do not expect JJ Redick to resign with the Dallas Mavericks this offseason. Of course, you look at his podcast, great podcast, by the way. He mentioned that he would want to play in New York, in the state of New York, to be close to his family. So that means either with the Brooklyn Nets or with the New York Knicks. So I really don't expect him to resign. Besides that, this roster I mean, it it's a great roster. It doesn't have many names that pop out, but there's definitely rooms for improvement. Now, looking at the free agents this year, I don't expect to get any top tier free agents, but I do think there's some guys that we can really target, and I think that main guy is DeMar DeRozan, who was a free agent this year. Now, DeMar DeRozan, we all know that he's traded for Kawhi Leonard. We all know what he did during his tenure with the Toronto Raptors, where he was phenomenal, led them to multiple Eastern Conference Finals. We know the story there. Went to San Antonio. They've been in the playoffs multiple times during his time there, but they have missed the playoffs the past 2 seasons. And DeMar DeRozan is a free agent, and that even though right now in this new age of the NBA, we're relying more on the 3-point shot. I do believe the Dallas Mavericks should target him because guess what? DeMar DeRozan doesn't have to have the ball in his hands every single possession. Even though he is a star, he's an all-star without a doubt. I do believe he's great defensively. He's a great perimeter defender. He's a great mid-range shooter. And in my mind, for all the old heads out there, I do believe DeMar DeRozan is probably one of the only players in the NBA that could actually fit in the 1980s, 1990s era, where they really did not depend on the 3-point shot as much. We all know DeMar DeRozan can find a shot anywhere, whether it's mid-range, top of the key, or in the paint. He can find a shot and he does that with efficiency as well. So I do believe the Dallas Mavericks should target DeMar DeRozan in free agency this year. Other guys looking at free agents that were phenomenal a couple seasons ago, but based on their salary this year, we could get them for a very, very, very cheap price. I'm looking at a guy like Hassan Whiteside, who I believe last season, when I do believe he was a member of the Portland Trailblazers, I do believe he led the league in blocks. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do believe he led the league in blocks and was one of the best defenders in the game last season. Now this season, he's on the Sacramento King. I do believe he's making like $1.5 million this year. And he's a free agent this year. So if the Dallas Mavericks can find a way to acquire Hassan Whiteside, you could put him at the 5 position. I wouldn't mind if he started. Guess what? Kristaps Porzingis doesn't play the 5 all the time. His primary position is the power forward position. So if we acquire Hassan Whiteside, that could be phenomenal for us because guess what? He can be a pick and roll threat. And at the other end, guess what? He's a phenomenal interior defender. Now look at the Atlanta Hawks. Their main guy in the interior is Clint Capella. Coming off the bench, they have, I know Aiden, you're watching this. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. Nyeke Kongwu, the rookie. So, 2 great athletic, agile centers, primarily 5s, guarding the interior where teams don't have the ability to get in the paint and make those shots with ease. That's the type of thing the Dallas Mavericks need. They need a center. They need a true center. Kristaps Porzingis is not a center. He's not a center. He's a power forward. He's a stretch big. Now, what I don't understand about Kristaps Porzingis in the postseason, where there were times where he was a liability on defense rather than the main guy. We know Luka Doncic is not the main defensive guy for this team. We know Tim Hardaway Jr. is not the main defensive guy for this team. And at one point in time, when the Dallas Mavericks did make that trade a couple seasons ago, they expect that main defensive guy to be Kristaps Porzingis. But at the course of time, Kristaps Porzingis has been here in Dallas and a part of the Dallas Mavericks organization. Kristaps Porzingis has been more of the liability, more than that main guy. So if we bring in Hassan Whiteside, which is just one name I have in mind, I do believe that would be a big target. A couple seasons ago, I would say I got a great young guy like Miles Turner. Believing that his extension with the Indiana Pacers, I believe, for last offseason, we would not have the ability to acquire him. And if we do want to trade for him, I do believe we would have to give up maybe a pick and maybe a couple pieces that I really, really do like on the team. Even though the White Powell last season suffered ACL injury, I do believe like February, he was out for the remainder of the season. I do believe whoever our next head coach is should honestly give him some more minutes. Because looking at, I believe it was like game 5 in LA, where down the stretch, Dwight Powell had a plethora of huge offensive rebounds that led to big time shots. It had a lot of hustle, had a lot of effort, and that's what Dwight Powell is mostly known for: crashing the boards, throwing in thunderous dunks, and have a lot of effort. I do believe whoever next head coach is should have Dwight Powell give more minutes. Now, we're going to address, me and Nick are going to address head coach vacancies in the future. Once the NBA season ends, because we do expect some more head coaches to unfortunately be let go. But but I do have to thank Donnie Nelson and Rick Carlisle. They were huge pieces, uh, not only just to the city of Dallas, but they also were members of that 2011 Dallas Mavericks championship team. Um, they were big factors in the success of the Dallas Mavericks for many years. Donnie Nelson pretty much brought in a young kid, Dirk Nowitzki, and we all know what he has become. He also made the big time trade, Trae Young for Luka Doncic. We all know how that turned out. Great trade for both teams. But whoever next general manager is, he cannot be reluctant to make any trades. He has to make those big time trades because, especially in the Western Conference, look at the teams coming back next year. Um, Predicting that Kawhi Leonard is going to resign with the Clippers this offseason, or just going to keep that player option and stay with the Clippers. The Clippers are coming back no matter what. Jamal Murray is coming back from injury next year. The Nuggets are going to be back. Assuming Anthony Davis and LeBron James are 100% healthy come next season, they're going to be ready. Klay Thompson, as expected, is going to be ready next season for the Golden State Warriors. Dame Lillard is coming back next season for the Portland Trailblazers. Look at these young teams here. You look at the Pelicans, look at the Grizzlies, you look at the Kings, teams that are trying to make the push for, let's say, the play-in or the playoffs. The Dallas Mavericks, they can't get worse. They can't keep the same roster. There has to be some trades. There has to be some trades. There has to be some moves. So we have to get better. We have to get better if we want to fit in the timetable. I expect the Dallas Mavericks to at least be in the NBA, be in an NBA Finals in the next 5 years. But that can't happen if we are not going to make trades, if we are not going to surround our main primary stars with some talent around them. Not saying that the team is not talented, but it's not talented enough. It's not talented enough to compete with teams like, let's say, the Clippers, who bounces out of the playoffs the last 2 years. And there are some reasons for that I'm not going to address. The Nuggets are going to get better. The Lakers may get better. There are teams in both conferences that are going to get better. Look at the Hornets. Even though they didn't make the playoffs, they're still a young team, and they're going to get better as well. The Dallas Mavericks are going to be one of those main teams in the future. Luka Doncic is forming to be the next face of the NBA. Assuming that he's not already is. But the Dallas Mavericks right now, the media is on their heads. Kristaps Porzingis needs to step up. And that is the main reason why the Dallas Mavericks not won the series. You look at the stats throughout the course of the series, they were okay, but they're not good enough. Kristaps Porzingis needs to attack the rim more. He needs to step up. Even though Luka Doncic is getting all the shine, he needs to understand that Luka Doncic is only going to get better, and that he needs to step up unless things get worse. And with that being said, thank you for joining here in Sports Unders 80. I'm your Sums, and thank you for joining here in Sports Unders 80. Aiden will be back in the next episode, by the way. So thank you for joining here in Sports Unders 80. If you haven't already, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, go, and also make sure to put up post notifications for every video and up from the channel. Until then, everybody, I will see you guys later. Until then, everybody, peace and love, stay safe, peace.